Welcome to My Transplant Story. Each episode will sit down with a living donor or transplant recipient to highlight their unique kidney transplantation story. Today, we're joined by Monica. Hi, Monica. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Good. How's life? How's the weather? What's going on?
Life is great. I'm actually sitting in Dallas, Texas today, waiting for the heat to get up to 106, but life is good.
Good. Good. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Again, my name is Monica Davey. I am a resident of Washington, D.C. I work in Dallas, Texas, so I commute back and forth. Been married for 26 years. I have three children who are currently 21, 22, and 23. And my 22-year-old son is the nexus of my transplant story.
Oh, how fun! How many? You said you have three kids.
I have three kids, yes.
Oh, and I'm sure they are your blessing, your world.
They absolutely are. Nina is our youngest. She's 21. She's a rising junior at University of Miami. Caleb, who is our miracle child in transplant story, is a rising senior at George Mason University. And then my oldest, Naomi, graduated from Harvard in 2022. She has moved back to DC and she is in environmental consulting. My husband is a teacher. He teaches at a DC public charter school and he runs a STEM lab. And I am a chief diversity officer, which is what I do. I like to call myself a recovering lawyer. I used to practice employment law, and now I do diversity work for a company called Vizient that is headquartered in Dallas, Texas.
That is awesome. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about Caleb and his story.
Sure. So, my husband and I, we had one daughter. My oldest daughter, Naomi, was born in 2000. Shortly after her turning one, we decided we wanted to have a second child. Got pregnant easily, was no problem. But at the 20-week mark, when you go in to find out the gender of the child, and my husband and I hadn't discussed whether or not we were going to find out the gender for the second one, but I knew I wanted to find out. So I went to this appointment by myself. And anyone who's experienced that, when you go to the sonogram and they're looking around at your belly, you wait for that smile or that look of confidence from the doctor when they're doing that exam. And I didn't get that, right? And I knew I was supposed to get that, but it didn't happen. And they looked and looked and looked. And the technician said, I need to bring in someone else. They brought in someone else. They looked and looked and looked, still did not get that confident look. Brought in the third person. They looked, did not get the confident look. They told me I needed to get dressed and they needed to talk to me. And at that 20-week appointment, that's when they saw things were just not the way they were supposed to be with the fetus. They noticed later, and I'll be able to give more detail, but this is more in hindsight, there was an obstruction in the development of the fetus that caused fluid to back up and all what you call the plumbing, right, of the body. Mm-hmm. So the kidney, the bladder, and all of that. And it caused fluid to back up in the fetus, caused the kidneys not to be formed properly, or the bladder. The bladder was also distended, and his belly was also really distended. And at birth, he was diagnosed with something called prune belly syndrome.
Wow.
I will say, though, at 20 weeks, when they discovered all this, the recommendation to me was to terminate the pregnancy, that it did not look like the baby would survive, that the kidneys would be functional, and they recommended that I terminate the pregnancy. I made the choice because I had the choice that I could not do that. We were a family of faith that we just said, if it's God's will for him to live, he will live. And if it's not, he won't. But I'm just going to proceed with the pregnancy. So that was at 20 weeks. Around 29 weeks, so September of 2001, it was actually September the 11th, 2001. And that date should ring a bell for most of the listeners. Yes. I had an appointment to go into the hospital. And what they were going to do was they were going to try to drain the bladder to get some of the amniotic fluid out, because that's what was happening. He was not releasing the amniotic fluid. So September 11th, I'm sitting there watching the Today Show, watching the planes go into the towers. And I call the hospital and say, should I come in? And they say, absolutely not. So a couple of days passed as the country is dealing with the tragedy of September 11th. I go in on September 14th, and they do the procedure, try to get some fluid out of the bladder, but the fluid then comes back in, and they tell me on September 15th that they just have to take the pregnancy. They have to go in and do an emergency C-section and remove the baby. So he was born on September 15th. We signed a do not resuscitate order on September 15th and said, if he's not meant to live, then he won't. At Children's Hospital, he was then transported to Children's Hospital in DC. We had an amazing team of nephrologists at Children's Hospital and urologists who at some point we decided we were going to do a life-saving procedure because our nephrologist said we just need to give him a fighting chance. And they performed a procedure to allow his bladder to be able to excrete externally. And that was a procedure that sort of saved his life. So that was September 15th. We knew then that his kidneys were not functioning. He lasted probably until March and April of 2002. That's when they decided he's going to need dialysis. So we started dialysis on this teeny little baby. And actually the official dialysis started May of 2002. And we did dialysis from May of 2002 until March 31st of 2004. And that's when I was finally approved, and he grew large enough for him to receive my kidney. We actually did the transplant at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia because they were able to do the transplant on a smaller recipient. And for those of you who know this, your kidney is about the size of your fist, and your native kidneys are in your kind of your back area. But for him, for the transplant, they put the kidney in his belly. And because he had this condition called prune belly syndrome, his belly was extremely distended. He didn't have any abdominal muscles. They were able to put the kidney in the front of his belly, and the kidney took. So that was March 31st of 2004 when I donated my kidney to him. It was, as a mother, and I'm sure many donors feel this way, I was just focused on him. Right. It was a painful procedure what I went through because I had an open nephrectomy is what they call it. And the open nephrectomy that they did then, they had to do an open nephrectomy as opposed to a laparoscopic nephrectomy because he was so small and they couldn't afford for the kidney to swell any bigger, pulling it out of me. So that's why they had to do an open one for me. But I was just focused on him, wanted to make sure that he was okay. So I was probably in the hospital 3 or 4 days, insisted that I get out so I can go check on him. He was at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I was at UPenn. And we were probably there for a month. And the kidneys started singing right away, started working. And it lasted him for 7 years.
Awesome. And how did you do recovering wise? I mean, you had a C-section cutting you open. So that was how many?
So that was a couple years. That was a couple years before, right?
Gotcha.
And the open nephrectomy is actually on your side. So it was in a different place.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I don't remember my pain, my struggle as a mom. You're just focused on him. So I was fine. I was more so worried about him, but I would do it all over again. And when that kidney actually ended up failing him after 7 years. And he had to start dialysis again. I would have done it all over again. If I had another kidney, I would have given him another one all over again. But he started developing something called donor-specific antibodies.
Okay.
Which is why he rejected my kidney. And so after 7 years, he had to start dialysis again. And we were doing peritoneal dialysis for a really long time. After that, he lost that first donated kidney.
Gotcha. And has he had another one since?
He has. So there's a great end to this story. So because he had those donor-specific antibodies, he was what we call a highly sensitized patient. You could test everybody in whatever buildings you and I both are sitting in right now, and no one was a match. My husband was a different blood type, and he was willing to donate his kidney in a paired exchange. But it
Oh,
still
wow.
took a while to find that right kidney for my son, Caleb.
Mhm.
So he actually did dialysis for 9 years after that, right? It was a mixture of peritoneal dialysis, which for your audience, I'm sure most people know that's dialysis every day. And for him, because of his size, 10 hours a day, every day, until he developed an infection around 2016. And that's when he started hemodialysis again. From 2016 to 2019, when we finally got that call, December of 2019, they found a good kidney for him. And
Mhm.
so we were called in December of 2019 to say they found a match finally, because it was really hard, as you can imagine, a young man this age having to do dialysis for that long. Um, but in January 16th of 2020 is when Caleb got the new kidney from an unknown donor. We still don't know who that donor is. They decided to remain anonymous. And then my
Mhm.
husband, a couple weeks later, donated his kidney to someone else, which was the agreement, right? So that Caleb
Right.
could get a kidney from the stranger. My husband donated to someone else. And that happened in late January of 2020. Um, we have all these like world events that happen around my son Caleb, right? So you had
Yeah.
September 11th at his birth.
Mhm.
Now, fast forward to January 16th, 2020. He was a
Mhm.
senior in high school, thrilled that he was getting this kidney,
Mhm.
but um, not happy that he was going to have to spend the rest of the semester at home and not being able to be at school for his senior year.
Right.
So if you're following along in the story, January 2020, right? March, a couple months later, the whole world shuts down. So all
Yep.
of his classmates are home with him. So he doesn't really
Mhm.
miss anything from his senior year.
Yeah.
He can participate virtually with everyone else. But most importantly, because the world was shut down, we were home too, right?
Yes.
And anybody that has gone through transplant, you know that it's really important to keep a recipient away from germs,
Right.
right? And because no one in our house was going anywhere, it was a great incubation period for his
Mhm.
this new kidney, and it kept it really safe because we were all home, germ free, and he had a really great start to that second.
And a great support system too. So y'all were able to be there.
That's right. That's right. So it's now August 23. So he's 3 years in
Mhm.
to this second kidney, and he's doing really really well.
Oh, if you could, if you've ever had, have you ever had anyone ask you if you could change something, or if you knew something about the transplant process? Is there anything that you could tell someone about it that they may not know that wants to donate their kidney?
Yeah, I just wish that people would realize that, and I know it's hard to grasp the science of this, but we only need one kidney,
Right.
right? I think there's this gift that we were given from God that we all have two, and that unfortunately kidney disease is common. But the fortunate thing is that every human being on this earth is walking around with an extra one. So if I had three, I would donate the other one too, right?
Right.
Because I've lived and realized that what happens is that that other kidney just takes over the functionality of the two kidneys that you had before. So I would
Mhm.
absolutely do it all over again. The precautions that I take is the precautions that anyone else should take. I eat healthy. I make sure I exercise. I drink lots of water to make sure I can
Mhm.
keep this one kidney I have really
Right.
healthy. But nope, I would absolutely do it all over again. My husband, who donated the kidney, completely healthy and has had zero problems uh, after donating that kidney on my son's benefit as well.
How, what a blessing. What a
It
blessing.
is. It really
Has
is.
your, what, has your life changed, you or your husband's life changed since you donated a kidney?
Well, so for us, because it's connected to my son, our life has changed because he's still part of our lives,
Right.
right? Without this donation, these two donations, he would not be with us. So, yes, our life has changed. Our families' lives have changed because Caleb is alive
I'm still
based
here.
on the fact that we have been able to donate two kidneys on his behalf. So, yes, that is life changing, not only for him, but for our entire family and our extended family.
For sure. If there's anything else, is there anything else you'd like to tell the people watching today?
Well, I think that I've become much more aware about the importance of the kidney. Anybody that goes through this, you just don't realize how many things are connected to healthy kidneys, right? So
Right.
my message is to make sure that you take care of yourself. Be really aware of your kidney health. I think that there are a lot of people who are walking around with potentially early stage kidney disease and they don't know it. And it's something that can be avoided by how you take care of yourself, how you take care of your body and your diet. And my hope is that stories like these, the campaigns that the National Kidney Foundation does, that we will raise the level of awareness about the importance of kidney health and how early awareness, knowledge, and education can really save a lot of lives.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much, Monica, for speaking with me today. And thank you, everyone watching, for tuning in. If you have any questions on living donation, you can post them in the comments. If you would like to share your transplantation story with us, visit kidney.org/share your story. We might even contact you to be a feature on our upcoming episodes. On behalf of all of us at NKF, we wish you good health. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much.